It is.
You did? Oh. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody is present. We have no executive session, so, and do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Said he, whoa.
And you did say,
Okay.
we can hear you. If that's the case, then we'll ask Mr. Smith to come up and do his presentation on the joint planning board council hearing on shoreline zoning.
Okay, so is this working?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, the new shoreland zoning ordinance, this has been long overdue. There were changes made by the state of Maine in 2015 to the shoreland zoning template. So how this works is the state established shoreland zoning in the 1990s, and they gave every municipality a template to go off of, and you can make minor adjustments to it. We opted into that, as we should have, but we never made the updates from 2015. So this is making those updates, and it's also going to tie into what we're doing a little bit later today with land use ordinance changes. But essentially simplifying it, I took all the changes that we made, the ways we customized it last time, and we put them right in here. So the planning board and myself went through all of that. There are some statute updates, but essentially this is a template boilerplate from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, and we just used their template again and just implemented our changes. So it's essentially the same thing, minor changes. It takes out timber harvesting, which was already technically repealed from a later date, but it just took the language out. So there are some other adjustments made by the state of Maine, but we essentially just went with the template.
On page 5, number C, certification of official shoreland zoning map. You've struck in the line, in the event the municipality does not have a municipal office, the municipal clerk shall be the custodian of the map.
Correct,
Why did you strike that?
because we have a town office.
Well, it was put in there and has remained in there because if the town gets into a place financially where they don't have a town office, or we have a fire or something, and we don't have the building, we need to have somebody that has the ability to have the custody of that.
Mhm.
And that's why that has been kept in the past.
Again, that was a recommendation by the DEP that we remove that because we do have a town office. It's not meant to be for special situations such as a fire, but it's meant to be for small towns that are very rural in Maine that don't have a town office. We are not a small town in rural Maine that doesn't have a town office. So that's why the language is stricken.
So what is the protocol then if, God forbid, due to economic reasons or a fire, and we don't have a municipal facility, if this isn't in here, what's the protocol for what happens with that map?
The same protocol for any other government document.
Which is,
I don't know. You have to ask the clerk. I don't know either.
For a sec. So is it safe to say, I'm assuming somewhere on the internet, you can find these maps as well?
Yes, you'll find this document in our codified ordinances online. When it's uploaded, I'll say.
And also, if we got to the situation where we no longer had a town office, there's gonna be a lot of documents that we'll have to change a lot of this for all the documents, I would assume.
Well, and quite frankly, if I may.
I know,
I gotta
you're-
back
you're
this off
pretty
here
loud.
A little bit. So, that's one of the reasons why we went away from the server and went to Microsoft 365. So in such an event, it's all of our documents, all the contracts we're doing now and everything. I would keep them in both hard copy and electronic form. And not only are they backed up to the cloud, but several of us in the office have our individual backup bricks. I do. Every Friday, I back everything up. So everything is backed up 16 ways to Sunday. And so I would assume maps like this would be a part of that protocol as well.
Anything else? You want to take questions from the audience, I assume? Any questions from the audience? Anything online? That you can see? Do we even have anyone online? Okay. Anything else? If nothing, then we'll move on to the next hearing. That's still you, Ryan. Sorry. This is new for me too, so.
Talking about the zoning and land use ordinance amendments.
Yeah, that has ended because there was, yes, sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure.
Yes. Now we would be on to the planning board council public hearing on the zoning ordinance changes.
Yeah, so I can outline these for you briefly, but the planning board and myself have started initiating the conversation that we had a few months ago. I think
Right.
it was
Yep.
last fall, winter. So here are some of the changes that we've come up with more to come in the future months. So section 1, we had discussed removing the rule that does not count land within a 100-year floodplain. This is not a rule I found in any other community, and also it's inhibited some people in Mechanic Falls who wanted to gift land to a relative so that they could build next to them because their land was largely in a floodplain. So again, that's one we've already discussed. In the note section, under the table, you'll see that there's kind of a duplicate footnote there, and that was sort of an error from a past change. So we're just correcting that error. The planning board at a later, I think in December, had given you changes where they wanted to be able to modify any lot in the downtown business district for dimensional requirements, not just ones under 10,000 square feet. So that's why that change is being made. So that's more of house cleaning than anything. On the next page, you'll notice that in section 2, we have adopted the 2015 building codes. The state of Maine's moving to the 2021 this year, and it should be happening over the next few months, if not sooner. So instead of updating this every single time the state decides to update it, we are just going to say current edition as adopted by MUBEC because we have to apply those codes anyways. So our ordinance could say 2006. We have to apply the latest ones applied by the state anyways, but we can go more strict, meaning we can go to newer ones, but there's really no reason to do that. So we're just going to do current edition for now on, and we'll just never have to change this again. Section 3, you'll notice we have changed stuff on the back lot. So something that happened, had it been over a year ago now, is the planning board and the council decided to change the lot size of a rural lot from 80,000 square feet to 40,000 square feet. That's just under 2 acres to just under 1 acre. As a part of that, we realized we still have a 3-acre back lot. So with that said, it's allowed in rural and general residential districts. We're not changing that. But what we are changing is the size requirements now double that of the applicable zone. So if you're in general residential, you can now have a smaller lot as long as you have public utilities to have a back lot. But this still requires, double that in a rural zone. So that's still 80,000 square feet, still larger than what's required right now. but essentially puts it back to the ratios that we had before, where you had to have a 2-acre lot and a 3-acre back lot. You don't have to have a 1-acre lot in the rural zone, but now you can create a 2-acre back lot. So again, just kind of going on that trend. Something else we changed. So I changed some language in point C to better reflect this. Instead of saying the 3-acre minimum size, it now says the minimum lot size. And then in point E, with LD 2003, we have to allow accessory dwelling units anywhere housing is allowed, and that includes backlots. So I'm just addressing that language. Legally, right now, someone could pull a permit for an accessory dwelling unit on a backlot. There's nothing I can do to stop it. So we're just reflecting that in the ordinance. Instead of saying a single family dwellings allowed, we're changing it to one single family dwelling, one accessory dwelling unit, and relevant accessory structures for residential use only. The reason I added that language is if you took the plain text, you could not build a garage or a shed or any other accessory structure on a backlot, which is not the case. So I kind of found that in other backlot ordinances in the area and decided to add it to ours. Section 4. This is
If I may.
yeah.
Back to A. There is a 33-foot strip of land with frontage of 33 feet on a town accepted road or private street built to town standards. For a backlot unit,
Mhm.
does that still remain that small that you're going to allow 2 units on a backlot with that small of access to it? Our fire department came to us a couple of years ago and had issues with the smallness and had asked the planning board to make it to the standard road size, which this was back when I was on the planning board, which we were supposed to do and we didn't get around to.
So a couple of points there. I've talked with the fire chief about our strip, whether we should make it 33 feet or 50 feet. And he says it makes no difference to him. With that said, just because the right of way is wider doesn't mean the driveway has to be wider. So a typical driveway would be 14 to 16 feet wide. And whether it's within a 33-foot right of way or a 50-foot, it doesn't change that width. So I have discussed this with the fire department. They said as long as we don't allow businesses on backlots, they are okay with it. But yeah, the accessory, I understand that no matter what, we have to, allow the accessory dwelling unit, but changing it to 50 feet or 60 feet or whatever wasn't something the planning board decided to do. We decided to change only these part of the backlot ordinance. But if you have a suggestion for the planning board, you're welcome to voice it to them and they can relook at it. But that wasn't something that we considered. Yep. So section 4 on the next page, this is on page 3. This is something, so I believe about 10 to 12 years ago, an amendment was made to our shoreline zoning ordinance to exclude all areas within our zoning ordinance that reference the shoreline zone, but it was never deleted from our zoning ordinance. So this is cleaning up that language. Technically, for the last 12 or so years, none of that was applicable anyways. So again, this is just cleaning it up, which is what we discussed before. This will remove approximately 7 pages from our land use ordinance, which is great. I mean, it doesn't give us any less teeth either because it's already replicated in the shoreline zoning ordinance. We're just cleaning up our zoning ordinance. So that's something we definitely set out to do, and that's what section 4 does. And then section 5 is multiple adjustments to the marijuana section of our ordinance. We had a public comment at our, I think 2 planning board meetings ago. Someone asked if we could allow dwelling units on the same parcel as marijuana operations. The planning board essentially said, as long as, you can provide some sort of emails to us showing that it's not, by my knowledge, it was not a rule at the state. So I had contacted OCP before. I had attended a lot of trainings there. This is essentially a rule that was in our ordinance that may have at one point been a rule, but is not anymore. So essentially this is removing, right here, you can see at the bottom of page 3, it says a marijuana facility should not be located on the same property that contains residential apartments or other dwelling units, whether or not occupied. So essentially this now allows that, and you can go through here in the language and it's just cleaning that up for each type of marijuana use. So that's been cleared through the OCP, which is the Office of Cannabis Policy. And essentially, again, originated from a public comment of someone that wanted to build dwelling units on the same parcel as a retail marijuana operation.
Did you do that? It appears you did that for testing facility as well,
For all type of marijuana uses, yes.
even though there's hazardous chemicals that are utilized with marijuana testing facilities. Potentially fire and explosive type hazardous materials.
That's addressed in the building code. The fire marshal's office at the state of Maine would have to address that. And they ultimately have to have approval from both fire marshals and the Office of Cannabis Policy. So I would think if there's any chemicals being used on the property, that would be addressed at that point.
Fire.
Anything else? Any comments from public?
May I ask, did you ever talk to Chief Studerman about that, removing that one from the facilities? About allowing residential on a testing facility site?
Yeah, all of these have been cleared by chief. So he regularly comes in on Fridays and I have these discussions with him. So there's same with the back lot, same with this one. They've all been discussed. So I even talk about lot sizes with him when we change the lot sizes. With that being said too, if there was ever a planning board review, we would also notify Public Works, fire, police, everyone to see if they have any issues. And if that was an issue, it could be addressed at planning board, but we don't have any testing facilities right now. But again, if one did want to do that, it would have to go through a lot of scrutiny, I'll say, to be allowed that. But right now at the state level, it is allowed to have apartments on the same parcel.
As soon as he gets out.
Hi, everybody. Missed you. I'm TJ Thayer, 6 Lane Road. I think I don't really care either way that this goes. But I think being one of the two people, Bob Clark and I, that wrote the original ordinance about cannabis in town. I think one of the original reasons we put that in there is because the town does not have a lot of control over where medical grow facilities go in, because it falls under ADA rules. So essentially the town they can't technically stop people from growing in certain areas. So I think that we would imagine that if you had a grow facility, a small one inside an apartment building or something, the town couldn't stop that. Yes, OCP would say, yes, we allow this. Okay, there's no laws against it. And it falls down to the municipal rule. And I think that was our kind of control way back when, saying, okay, this is how we want to try to keep manufacturing facilities with inherently hazardous substances, cultivation facilities that are, have to go through a lot of fire safety regulations. I think if I remember correctly, that was why we had that in there way back when.
Yeah, and hazardous chemicals.
Yeah. So it wasn't so
Gross.
much that, I think we were thinking about those really tight quarter areas, and especially where it said, adult use, obviously in that rule, the first part of that paragraph where we change it, it says adult use and medical cultivation facilities. And the medical one is that municipalities really don't have very much control over where they go in. It's because they fall under the ADA Act. So I think that was our small control way back 3-4 years ago, what it is now, for us to be like, all right, well, maybe we want as a town to scrutinize these medical cultivation facilities that are licensed through the town. Like I know Auburn, it's very, very difficult because the municipal rules are way tighter than the state rules. And I think that's what we were going after. So I just wanted to add that.
And we are allowed to go tighter. You're always allowed to go more restrictive or tighter than what the state says. You just can't go looser than what the state says.
Any other comments? All right, we'll close. Yes. Thank you. TJ. Well, actually, I have a question for you, TJ. Just because I like to have all my information.
Of course.
How do you feel? I know that you said you don't have any skin in the game on this
Yep.
issue, right? I mean, I'll thank you for that. So, do you think that this is kind of outdated at this point, or you feel the same as you did when this was written? I wasn't here when this was written, so.
I think it's, I'm a little bit nervous personally, to get rid of this only because I think that there's a lot of unknowns that we don't see a lot of the grow facilities in town. A lot of the medical growers are not licensed through the town. And it's because they don't have to be. Technically, per our ordinance, there is a medical, a patient you can grow and you can get licensed through the town,
Okay.
as well as you have my type of license, which there's, I don't know how many are licensed through the town. I know it's shrinking now, but it does make me a little bit nervous, because of places like apartment buildings or
Right.
type multi-unit dwellings, where someone could come up to Ryan and be like, hey, just so you know, Ryan, I'm putting in a 16 light grow inside my back 2 bedrooms here, and there's nothing you can do about it now, because now they're allowed, next to bedrooms and stuff
Right.
like that.
So, but this is only going to be changed for the adult use because you're
Nope.
saying medical can already do it without
No,
our
it says right in
permission.
that first paragraph, he's striking it out. It says, let me pull it up. It
Right.
says,
But didn't you say the medicals are already by the state or whatever?
yeah, so the state has looser rules because they essentially say they want the municipals to make their own municipal tighter rules.
Okay,
So the state is very much like they'll roll over on any rules, on anything. They're very loose because they want the municipalities to be the hard scrutiny. That's why when I apply for my renewal of my cannabis licenses, I have to have my local authorization forms, which is give to Ryan. So that he can sign off on, say, hey, the town is cool with what I'm doing. So it really falls down to the towns to be the tough ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, as part of that first paragraph, Article 4, 4.5, Section 6, adult use and medical marijuana cultivation facilities. So same thing. Yeah, that's really where, and then manufacturing facilities is what Paula was, I think, alluding to.
Both of them. Both
Because
of
a
them.
manufacturing facility, not always, sometimes has inherently hazardous substances. Sometimes, not always.
And with grows, and you can expound on this, TJ, with grows, you have herbicides and all kinds of other types of,
Sometimes, sometimes.
involved as well.
Yeah, some places.
right.
So
But I mean, you can find a lot of that in just about every home.
agreed.
All right, like I understand where you're coming from, but in farms and other places, you're gonna find the same stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed. So it's like,
And we're not stopping, and don't get me wrong, I stand personally, where I stand personally with this is different than what I feel that what's fair for all. This is just me, but if we allow this for people to grow their gardens in their residence,
sure.
right? Then, or
Yeah.
not even, I'm just talking if they can grow anything in their garden at home, then to me, it seems a little wrong to change it for something else.
Right.
Just because you don't like it.
Agreed. And I think that's where I think the town could be tougher, I think, on especially renewals of those that try to be licensed in the town. So for instance, I said, hey, I have a big grow in my back bedrooms of
Right.
this multi-unit house, and then it would all of a sudden fall on Ryan to be like, hey, listen, are these walls double thick fireproof? Do they
Right.
have 2-hour ratings? Because that's what, other towns that I operate in, that's what they do. They say, hey, we want to see 4 layers of drywall in these walls, to see 2-hour breakthrough barriers and things like that.
So, but if this was allowed, no, sorry, I want to talk to Ryan.
Yeah.
now. Sorry, TJ. I'm just trying to get information here because I think this is important that everybody knows. Now, if this was stricken and people can do it, they would come under these regulations, would they not? Or not? Or does it just make it so that anybody can do it? They don't need any regulations.
So the International Building Code and the NFPA code covers this. Anything that has any sort of chemicals involved is placed under a lot of scrutiny under the building codes. So it probably won't even be allowed in most situations, especially attached, if there are chemicals being used of any kind. And again, that's just a part of the any sort of mixed use occupancy between residential and commercial actually has to go to the fire marshal's office for review. So again, that's where a lot of that would be addressed and probably not allowed to begin with. But this would just take on the small scale operations that still want to have additional revenue.
So this wouldn't be, I'm just trying to get the information here. This isn't make it so that somebody can just do it without permission, right? They would have to go through all this regulation.
At the
correct?
at the very least, they would have to go through my office if they're just doing one detached unit. And in that case, they still have to meet the applicable building codes during plan review. And then if they're doing multiple units on a property, they would have to go, that's a planning board review. And even so, if it's attached in any way to a commercial use, it has to go through fire marshal's office. It doesn't matter if it's a small scale retail operation and one tiny apartment for the owner to live in, right?
Right.
It has to go to fire marshals.
I think the scare is that it would be not regulated at all, right? And people would just start growing things in there. But if they're doing that, they're doing it illegally anyways.
Now, if there was any sort of scare, there would be a rule at the state level about
Right.
it. There would be some pretty big restrictions on it. And this is just taking us down to essentially the state rules, which is no rule around this. But yeah, I mean, I know it's chemicals but if you go through the occupancies in the International Building Code, you'll see some high risk categories, and that's what those would be classified under. And when you try to get mixed use occupancy with those, it's nearly impossible.
I'm just looking for clarification. That's all.
So
Thank you.
perhaps Ryan, you could answer the question for me. What triggers, you touched upon what triggers the fire marshal review? Is it a renewal? What would it take on an annual basis for a fire marshal review to happen?
So fire marshal review happens at the construction of a building. So the fire marshal would essentially, you come out and you want to add an apartment to attach to a building. Let's say the fire marshal's office would have to review those plans to make sure they comply with the building codes. They do NFPA codes, and then the IVC would be applied locally. So that's sort of how they do their reviews. And then the OCP would review on their regular inspection schedule. And then the town would review on their inspection schedule. So I think the OCP, the last training I went to, said they have enough inspectors to inspect every 3 years or so, every operation. That includes caregivers around the state. That's just the latest data that I have. So I don't know if that's changed or not, but that's just how I understand the process. In addition, the OCP would have to review any sort of apartments being added. I know that was sort of an issue that's come up, but the OCP, again, Office of Cannabis Policy, would have to review that for separate entrances and security measures.
You are tonight. Any other comments? We will end this public hearing and then have a public hearing on Dad's Place liquor license renewal.
So I don't know, do you want to say anything about all this?
I assume Jeff signed off on it.
Both of them.
Unless we're doing both of them at the same time. No, we can't. So we'll just deal with Dad's Place right
Just
now.
one.
Sorry. You've given me this job, so I didn't look for it. Any comments? Pretty straightforward. If not, we'll close that one and go to the Silver Spur. And he signed off on that one, which I already knew, but any comments on that? And we'll close that one. All right. That was quick. I think it's gonna go slower now. All right, so now we're at 7.1 shoreland zoning. So
Motion that we accept the changes that have been presented to the council for the shoreland zoning rewriting of the policy.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Good. The planning board has to
Oh,
vote on it.
thank you.
Just procedure.
See, this is my first time with this joint.
No problem.
Mr. Goss, are you the chairperson?
Right.
So I think that's what he's saying. They-
We have to first.
You have to vote to recommend it to us, right?
So I need a motion to approve the shoreline zoning ordinances.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the amendments to the shore and zoning ordinance as presented by the planning board. Second.
All those in favor? Vote.
Okay,
I make a motion that we accept the shoreland zoning changes as presented to the council by the planning board as modified.
now is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Pass.
We'll pause to sign, so that way we
Yes.
keep everything. Right?
That's the important one. He wants to make sure those ones get. All right, I'm gonna move on 7.2. Need a motion. Oh, sorry. From, I need the planning board to recommend it so that we can make a motion. Sorry, again,
What's the topic?
it is the zoning ordinance changes.
We don't have.
All right, sorry. Here, you want mine?
Yeah, that's a.
This is it anyways
this
for you
is it,
guys.
right?
This is it for you guys.
Zoning.
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the amendments as presented to zoning and land use ordinance. I'll second.
All those in favor? Let's vote.
Thank you.
Oh.
Now I can accept the motion. If it's presented.
Motion that we accept the zoning ordinance changes as presented.
We're really not
Oh,
doing
you
well
guys-
today. I'm sorry, it's me.
I make a motion that we accept the zoning ordinance changes.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I know that Mr. Smith says that there are people in place in the state level that will oversee the aspects, especially with the chemicals involved. But having been involved with this whole process from the beginning and knowing the types of chemicals involved, I am not comfortable with what the changes are being asked with the marijuana facilities and allowing apartments to be on those same plots of land, not only for the individuals who may be renting those plots, but also the added burden and responsibility and potential hazard to the fire department having to deal with not only the facility, but then a residence that may potentially have individuals in it. That they'll have to split their concerns, whereas they won't be able to go in initially and just focus on the fire at the facility, because they'll have to worry about individuals in the building, whether they're there or not, and getting them out, which will allow the facility that has the chemicals in it to continue to burn.
Any other discussion?
This requires a permit. So this requires a permit to happen in the first place, right? So the whereabouts and knowledge of this operation is common knowledge. And as Ryan says that, it's probably going to be highly regulated and maybe even not permitted. So there's a lot of definite maybes about this and a lot of hoops to jump through to even get to this point.
I'm not comfortable with the highly probable aspect of it. We don't know that for sure. And I do know how nasty these chemicals are that are involved in both facilities and with growth facilities. And that's my concern. The other thing is for our firefighters who will be put in the position in our police department, who will be put in a position when they have to go to these calls, they'll have to split their attention between the facility that's on fire with these chemicals and the potential residents of these buildings, instead of being able to focus solely on the facility, whether it's the testing facility, the grow facility, which will allow the fire to be able to go further in the facility in order to accommodate the human factor of it first.
I have a quick question for Ryan. Can I ask Ryan a question? Sorry. Ryan, are these facilities allowed in residential areas?
Yes,
So if I own an apartment building, my next door neighbor could have one right beside within setbacks of my building, my apartment building.
yes. And in many instances, we see the first floor of a 10-story apartment building having some sort of marijuana operation with chemicals on it and 10 stories worth of apartments above it. It's a pretty common sight in bigger cities.
I'm asking,
Understood.
I'm trying again to glean from this. Like, it's the same things would have to happen. You have to have your ducks in a row to be able to do this. Again, putting aside,
Yes.
okay.
So if we decided to go, what would we have to do differently that the general public being exposed to this? What kind of verbiage would we need for the?
My opinion is we need to leave it the way it's written. You
But yet,
shouldn't,
it
you
doesn't
shouldn't
really
mix.
it doesn't protect me as the neighbor.
It does, it shouldn't be in. It does, this does, because they're not allowed to have that and they have to have just a facility.
Right, but it could literally be right beside my
And
residence.
in the town of Mechanic Falls, we only allow a certain amount of facilities and they have to be done through a public hearing and other steps.
Does that change with this change of ordinance? Do they still have to be regulated? Or can people just put them in wherever they want? This is not changing that, right? You would know better with planning board. I'm asking the planning board and Ryan, I guess. I mean, still those same steps have to go through. It's just allowing it on the same parcel of property, just like before we had an ordinance that said you could only have medical or personal use, and we've changed it to allow both on the same plot of land. That's all this is doing, correct? Allowing a residential to be on the same plot of land. It could be right beside their neighbor who has residential, right? It's just changing it so that the owner can have the same on the same plot of land. Just like we did with the medical and the person. That's the way I see it. If I'm wrong, then I'm okay to be challenged on that, but that's the way I see it.
Mr. Smith, your professional opinion, please.
I try to keep my opinion out of it. I'm just here to give you building science and whatever else. But I guess, could you clarify the question? I mean, it's,
Well, I don't really have a question, but other than right now, they will still, if this is adopted,
Mhm.
they will still have to go through the same steps to have this facility as they would before.
Yes, that's correct.
It's just going to allow them to both be on the same plot of land.
Correct.
But the same regulations, the same, everything will be the same.
Yes, we're not changing any other regulations other than that. I guess you also make ordinances so people don't have to do stuff to work around ordinances. So for example, with the floodplain rule earlier here, I mean, someone could just, without a permit, they could just fill up a bunch of floodplain area and get it up to the elevation, have FEMA declare it not in the floodplain anymore, and now you just knocked all that runoff to another parcel, and now they have the land area, right? Whereas this incentivizes them to only do it for the structure instead of the entire plot of land. So it's another way to incentivize someone not working around it. One way to work around this would just be to split the land because we only require 100 feet of frontage, and they can just build it on the next parcel over, quote unquote, and it's the same exact thing as it was before. So it's another thing where it's just there's ways around it to begin with. This, I guess the only thing we would be discussing if it's attached, but if it's attached, it has to go through so many levels of scrutiny at the fire marshal's office and in the building codes that it's either doesn't make financial sense or it just makes sense to detach it by 10 feet and you're back to the same point as you were before. So again, I don't see a lot of, I understand the concerns and I'm trying to answer them the best I can.
Yeah.
But it's just, I attend all these building science seminars and fire marshal office trainings, and this is a topic everyone's discussing, but at the state level, they haven't decided to outlaw this. And I think it's because of the level of scrutiny that building codes puts on this. And again, it's pretty easy to work around anyways.
And at the point that the state did say, we're not going to allow this, it would automatically not be allowed here.
It would override our ordinances. We can't be less restrictive than the state. We can only match them, or be more restrictive. So yeah, if they did make a
We'd have to
rule,
follow that.
yeah, we would have to follow that. And in that case, we'd probably just add it to our ordinance. But again, I don't see any momentum for that right now because again, I've had the conversations with a couple people in the compliance office of OCP, and it seems pretty. They're actually making the rules more favorably as we speak for stuff like this. And that was evident by some emails I gave the planning board at the last planning board meeting. They're actually passing a series of changes to their rules over the next month or two that are going to make this easier for people to do. So I know that the OCP is complying with the need for housing in this manner too.
And that's
That's-
my concern is that quote unquote, the need for housing is going to allow for a disaster down the road.
Any other comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. It's carried 4-1. Uh, 7.3, Dad's Place liquor license renewal.
I make a motion that we um accept the recommendation for the Dad's Place liquor license renewal.
Removal.
Second.
We're doing well tonight. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? 7.4, Silver Spur liquor license renewal.
That we accept the application. Motion, we accept the application. For the license renewal. Second.
Been motion and seconded to accept the Silver Spur license, liquor license renewal. Any comments? Discussion? Not those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Yes. Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paula, for saying something. I would have just been rude and gotten up if I was you guys. I did.
Have you signed?
I haven't signed. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right. I think they're anxious to get home.
I don't blame them. Can you take me with you?
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm glad to see there's no resignations. Uh, well, that's true. Yeah, but you swore that you'd stick it out until we found your replacement. I'll hold you to that. I will too. Or Cindy, she gave him at the wrong time. Yeah. That's just front page on that. That one. I guess so. They were all in with the, yeah. Okay,
The shoreline zoning ordinance. One is finding the one for the regular one.
it's right there. Right,
Oh,
or right in front. Actually. All right, general reports.
Accept the minutes.
Been moved and seconded to accept the previous minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you.
Opposed? Carried. Department monthly reports.
Give me a break.
I feel better personally. I appreciate it, Ray. You just keep it up. You're making me feel better.
All right. I'll keep it up. I make a motion that we accept the department monthly report as presented in our packets.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the monthly department report. Doesn't like you, Ray. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, it's carried. All right, public comments. I like your yellow Crocs. That's my comment.
Jessica Smith, 13 Perkins Road. I am here for the Community Day Committee first. We have been meeting monthly since January, full speed ahead. The event is this summer, August 2nd, Friday, August 2nd, and Saturday, August 3rd. We are planning a parade again. That's our favorite part of the event. The theme this year is My Hometown. We are currently in the midst of an art contest at Elm Street School with the 5th and 6th grade students to design a logo or art that we can use on promotional materials for the event. So that's going on right now. And the winners are going to be announced at the school assembly on May 15th. And then going backwards a little bit, on April 30th, we did meet with Chief Goss to discuss the parade route, how to make it safer, how we close the roads and open the roads, and who does what to control the traffic, just to see if there's anything we could do. We didn't have issues last year, but we're just looking to just make sure that that remains like a safe, featured event. And then we're in the midst of connecting with all of the local nonprofits and groups to just give them kind of first shot at fundraising. Do you want to bake stuff? Do you want to sell stuff? Do you want to run a dunk tank? Like, just get everyone involved before we branch out to all the surrounding towns. and other groups that we can find. And our next meeting is Wednesday, May 29th at 7 PM, right here in this room. Next, I'd like to speak to from the school board. I'd like to thank Paula for being on our budget committee. Thank you. That was fun. The budget information is on our website and it is extensive. So if you have any questions, there is a lot of information there to support how we got to the budget that we're currently at. Our next board meeting is next Monday, the 13th at 6:30 at the high school in the auditorium. And then following that, the district budget meeting is May 21st at 6:30 PM, also in the auditorium. The 13th is our regular board meeting next week. No, we're in the auditorium now. Yeah, it's hard when you're there to hear, but online it comes across better in that the sound quality is better for everyone watching remotely. So we switched to that venue. The 21st. That's also in that room, and that's the big article by article budget vote. And then we have the validation referendum here on June 11th with the municipal budget and all the other voting that goes on that day. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week at all of our schools. We're celebrating that. Last week was Bus Driver Appreciation Week, and I just wanted to note that we are still looking to hire more bus drivers. So if anybody would like to be a bus driver, please apply. If you have kids in the school, you know what I mean. You're getting those robocalls with the canceled routes. It is very unfortunate. You just get notified in the morning. You have to bring your own kids to school today. So it's
They're also looking for bus monitors on
yeah,
those
another fun
buses.
position. Yes. So, so yeah, you can apply to work for the RSU right on our website. Thank you all.
Would you mind sharing what the bottom line per 100,000 will be for the budget, the way it's written?
Yeah, that's Monday at our
Well, I
meeting.
know, but what they're feeling it'll be if it passes as it is.
You can't get that.
Maybe after the meeting I could speak to you. I just don't want to go on record because nothing's official until it's all voted.
Okay.
But
I wanted to find out if it changed because I wound up sick and I didn't make it to the
I'm not
last
sure if it
meeting.
changed since the meeting that you
Okay.
were at, but it should be right in that same ballpark. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't blame you for not wanting to go on record in that.
Hello,
Hello.
how we doing? Just wanted to say hi and check in with y'all. State Representative Dave Boyer, 112 Barrel Road, Poland, Maine. District 87 is pretty much all of Poland and all of Mechanic Falls. And happy to answer any questions about what went on this session. Wasn't a great session if you pay your taxes and don't make six figures. It was tough to see the $330 million surplus not go towards tax relief. You know, I just feels like stuff we did up there is probably not going to make gas or oil prices go down, probably not going to make grocery store trips more bearable. So I think it would have been incumbent on us to let everyone keep more of what they earn to pay these crazy prices. That unfortunately was not done. You know, the one thing that affected the towns was the property tax stabilization. It was kind of disappointing that this promise was made to seniors. Granted, it needed some reform. You know, I think it could have been fixed and funded, but we put our town officials through this laborious process of taking everyone's paper application, and then it, you know, only lasted the 1 year. We funded the difference, the 15 million or so that the towns wouldn't be on the hook for them. But I think it was a missed opportunity to address keeping seniors in their homes, and the property tax and the school board discussion. All that is, you know, intimately linked, for better for worse, in ways I don't fully comprehend, and I think most of the folks up there don't either. Between the 55% funding. But I'm happy to take any questions. If anybody listening wants to contact me, my cell phone's 274-4633. Happy to volunteer at community days. I did the dunk tank at Poland Spring Heritage Days. That was fun. and my experience in Augusta might serve me well if I wanted to be a bus monitor as well, probably. But happy to answer any questions you guys may have, or just wanted to Checking.
When will you be having veto day
Friday,
vote?
this Friday. We're adjourned. So that's the best news I could come and deliver is the damage is done. But we do have veto day, which our caucus likes out of all the days serving in the minority. That's this Friday, about 7 or 8. Stuff like the firearms bills. She signed some, vetoed another. The supplemental went through, so we're not dealing with that. But Friday will be the last day we come in. We'll see if the majority party wants to try to take up other stuff. They usually, I think, are going to want to run the appropriations table. The appropriations committee is meeting tomorrow. I was able to pass some legislation that didn't have fiscal notes. That was a little easier. I did have 1 or 2 that did have fiscal notes that are on the table. One of which I worked with constituent here in Mechanic Falls, Jared Pinkham, to help fund the unidentified bodies that's in our state's possession. There's roughly 20 that are up in Augusta that are unidentified. And we learned that there's technology that's DNA reverse. You can look up reverse genealogy through DNA. It's been used for cold cases as well, but it costs about $5,000 a body. And so my fiscal note on that bill is $100,000 to test those remains, and working with folks like Ray Moreau up in Jay, who's missing his daughter for years and years, and other folks that, maybe some of Maine's missing are there, and we could bring closure. So hoping we can get that funded tomorrow, at least a little small victory there, and working with Jared's been cool, and it's been a pleasure doing the constituent outreach and recognizing folks in our community like Eric's and Nancy and other folks. So thank you.
Thank you for backing our Historical Society's request for the bridge naming.
Excited to, get the bridge fixed up and then probably do some signing and ceremony. And, Kim Davis is excited and very proud of. And it's a pretty cool story for sure. One I didn't know about.
Will you be running for reelection?
I'm running for reelection this November. No primary. Gentleman in Poland is running against me on the Democrat side, and sure it'll be a healthy, spirited campaign, and see how voters feel. Thank you. And I think I met your family member up there, Representative White.
Yes,
My
my brother-in-law's father-in-law. Yes.
He spoke highly of you.
Yes, we have spirited conversation a lot.
We get along. He's
a
like
great
Bruce.
guy.
He's one of my better colleagues.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk politics when we get together for family, but we always do.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
And I put my microphone on. There was an issue brought up with the school board regarding the fencing of the backyard. I just want to let you know that John Holly and I have talked regarding that project. Ground floor.
You trade up.
Oh, and FYI, so
gonna-
everybody in town knows,
Oh.
John Hawley is getting his school bus driver's license so he can drive school bus and kids. He's stepped up to the plate.
All right. So this is public comments time. Now we'll go, is any other public comment? If not, we'll go to council comment, which is kind of dribbled in, but that's okay. Anything else?
I have a compliment for our public works with these last storms that we've had. They've done a tremendous job with keeping up with trees down and roads washing and all the other craziness that went on. And I want to say thank you for doing what you do. We've got a lot of people in this town that are employees that people don't realize do a lot for this town, and we need to be thankful that we have the employees we have.
Yeah.
Well, since it's here, you can do your report.
All right, all right. So a few quick TM updates. Storage tank update. So we used ARPA money to fix the revamp the storage tanks out back. That project is now complete. All the paperwork is signed off and our guys are working with the state of Maine, making sure they get all the right paperwork and everything. So we'll have at least another 5 years and probably a lot longer. It's just after 5 years, there'll be annual inspections, annual paperwork that will need to be done. But I think it was a very worthwhile project for the town to do because it was either that or get the tanks out of the ground, which would have been a very expensive proposition. So I'm happy to report that's complete. The Fix 108 committee working on a few projects. The LED, you notice it's a little brighter in here tonight. So throughout this building, we have new LED lighting, which was a project that we did through Efficiency Maine. It was a $17,000 project, which cost the town around $6,000. So a lot of it is it was a very good deal through the state of Maine with Efficiency Maine. In addition to that, you'll notice that we have new flooring in the foyers, both here and upstairs. We had some trials and tribulations getting through it, but we're on the other side of it, and it looks snazzy. It looks good. So that's done. The Fix 108 committee will, there's something on your agenda later tonight. More projects that we're going to be working on. One of the next ones is going to be tearing up the front walkways that lead to the road and off to the sides, and we're going to be redoing those walkways. And so that's a project you can look forward to as the summer progresses. More coming to a theater near you. Town road signs. Yes, we have not forgot. And so I waited for winter to get through. So Ryan and I took a day and or a couple hours anyways, and we went gallivanting through the town looking for homes for the new 6 town road signs. And we got GPS locations and pictures, and I sent them off to our contact at the state of Maine, who sent me an email last Friday, sent me an email last Friday saying gave me approval for 5 of the 6. The only one he questioned was the one by Daddy-O's. So I'm going to have to recheck that one just to make sure, because it has to set so far away from other signs, blah, 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 blah. So I'll double check that. And then Scott and the boys will probably, I'll have another conversation with them later this week, but our game plan is for them to try to fit it in here and there in between other projects. So you'll probably won't see them go up all at once. Then again, maybe you will. But throughout the summer, at least sometime by, I hope, Labor Day, all the signs should be up. Looking forward to that. The 2023 road paving, which got delayed until this spring. In checking with Spencer Paving, who was awarded the bid, looking to do that project mid to end May. So in the next few weeks, that project should be completed pending weather. 2024 paving projects, which include Elm Street from the railroad station down to Lewiston Street, that little section. And we're going to redo the entire sidewalk going up to and a little bit past the school. And as a part of those projects, we're going to begin the first year of a 2-year project on North Street. And so all of that is currently out to bid right now. 10 a.m. on May 15th, we'll be back in this room to open up those bids. And remember, we're working with Pine Tree Engineering, Rob Prue, who is a great guy to work with on this sort of stuff. He's taking care of us soup to nuts. And Rob and company will be here on the 15th, and we'll open up the bids and see what we get for actual bidding. So stay tuned on that. I'll have that on your June agenda. And again, those bids are being put out pending June 11th budget vote. So those are the items that I have. And so I'll send it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
With the 24 road paving, will they be required to put a thing in there that says that they won't change the price on us or tell us how much they potentially could change the price if they don't get it done in this year, like what happened last year for 23?
So no, all of these contracts have what they call escalators. So if the price of asphalt, like if the Middle East blows up tonight, the price of fuel oil is going to go up tomorrow morning, and so will the price of asphalt. And so in those contracts are escalators that reflect that. What we went through in 2023 was an oddity because there was so much work that Spencer had bid and was accepted on, and the weather just did not simply cooperate. In all the years I've been doing road work between Paris and here, that's never been an issue before, quite frankly. And getting it done before the plants close in November, that's a horse of another color. But yeah, so this is a rare circumstance. And so I would assume that if we were in that same predicament, I would work very hard like we did this time. Dennis Spencer was very good. He honored the bid. I mean, it's accepted. He accepted the business, right? And so by no fault of either party, just had to delay the doing of the business. And so if we get into that same situation, I'm sure that would happen again. So, but to answer your question directly, no, it's not a part of the contract.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any old business?
Nope.
New business?
I
Oh,
have a question.
Yep.
The silo, the pellet from hell silo sitting outside the store.
All right. Do you want the latest?
Yeah, please.
All right. So, every week for the last several weeks, and a lot in between going beyond the last several weeks, I have been in contact with Mr. Knox about finalizing the deal and getting it out of here. And we've set up many supposed times and dates when he was going to do this, including last Thursday or Friday. Friday, he was coming in last Friday morning and sent me an email last Friday morning saying he was not feeling well, that we'd have to push it off to this week. I sent him an email this morning saying, just checking in, please advise. He did say that he would have it gone by the 15th, because again, the 15th is the date that I've given him to do it or don't do it, right? To be polite. And so at this point, I will say, I will give a dog a good name and say that I hope it gets done. I expect it to get done. If it doesn't get done, it will be part of your June agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
any other old business? Moving on to new business. PD window project.
So I'll tee it up for you guys. So as a part of the Fix 108 committee, one of the next projects we want to tackle, and you all to varying degrees have been a part of this storyline, is the sagging PD windows. We want to fix that and maybe fix the cause of that if we can find the cause of that to fix. And so we have 3 bids for you tonight. The bids are a part of your packet. And I hope in order to move forward, I hope you choose one. And I turn it over to you guys.
Have comments? We know two out of these three builders, and obviously you know the one that I don't know. I can speak for Elite Build and I can speak for Certified Custom Carpentry. One's a friend and one is my son. Okay, so I need that in the back. Okay, so I'm going to have to step out of this whole conversation. Because I can only speak for their qualifications. Vic has used Chris Batchelor on projects around a long time here. Elite Build. He's Elite Build.
He's the one that did our door. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done work over here, but he's also the highest bid. Okay, the highest bid. He's put money in here because he feels that there's some hidden agenda with some mold in the wall, and he didn't know what he got into on that. The other one is Certified Custom Carpentry. This is Cliff Venot, my son-in-law. He does exceptional work. He's a particular person. And I just happened to mention to him, and he approached it that he would like to do the job. He has got a little bit of a space in his schedule that he can do. But outside of that, I can only speak for the quality of each fleet and I have stickers on getting stuff done. But I can't comment anymore after that.
The Elite Built addresses the potential mold issues that are there, but I don't see that being addressed in any of the other ones. Was mold or the potential, the severity of mold brought up as part of what needed to be considered with these bids?
So that's an excellent question. So the context that I would build this into you, first off, this has been a very informal process. And it's been an elongated process. We've been discussing this for quite some time. And we had Chris from Elite Built come in going into last winter. He went upstairs, he opened up the wall below the windows. And at that time, saw water staining. And shortly thereafter, I think Daryl came in one day, looked at the situation as well. And Chris thought that it was a problem from above of water coming off of the roof and creating water issues, mold, and that's why we had the sag. And so that's why this is a part of his bid and he's doing a soft approach saying, hey, if it's simple, easy, I can do a bleach solution and clean it up. If it's something more involved, well, we're going to have to talk about that. So he's under the impression, or has been under the impression, that there is some sort of water issue. And then I had both Daryl and Ryan know a guy, Lee Negley, and very complimentary on his worked with Daryl, as I understand it. Daryl can speak to all of that. But so Lee came in, looked at the situation, and said that he doesn't think it's so much a water issue from above, but a heave based on water still, but a heaving issue from below. And you heard me tell you guys before that there's vinyl siding that goes below the asphalt line on the side of the building. And so both could be right. Both could be wrong. Who the heck knows? So Lee's thought on this was, let's at least take care of the window. And then when I'm in there, I can see what's what from there. Okay. So Chris is probably a little bit more involved at the outset. That's probably why he's a little higher. Okay. Lee, if you read the sheets that I provided to you in the email and the quote, basically he's looking to fix the window problem and then see what's what from there. Ray's son-in-law, forgive me, Cliff, came in last week and went upstairs and looked, took some quick measurements and stuff and looked around. And I told him he needed to get me the quote in time so I could put it as a part of the packet, which was the next day. And so he did give me a quote sitting in front of you. And so his thing is kind of like almost in between a little bit, where he's talking about replacing the windows with a header and doing sheathing and whatnot. But he doesn't go a lot into the mold issue, if there are any. Quite frankly, I think we need to, regardless of which bid you accept, I think we need to just kind of have a general understanding. There's no way for anybody to truly know until we get in there and open it up. And that seems to be the consensus of what I'm hearing. And so it's really, for me, I kind of made a promise that we'd have it fixed before snow flies in 24. That's my goal. How we get there, it's now in your lap to choose which guy we go with to make it so.
It's put in smaller windows.
Yes.
They need to be, because part of the issue is the windows are too tall for the room. So it has a ceiling like this, and because the windows, if you picture those windows being taller than the slant ceiling, they slanted the ceiling up to go, not to cover the window. No, so the ceiling goes like this and then it dives up to go above the window. So part of the thing that they're going to do is everybody's planning on putting shorter windows in and making it a flat ceiling when they're done. So, and I'm kind of in the same boat as him. Lee's a friend of mine. I've got no skin in the game. He is a friend, but whether he does it or not, I can honestly say it's up to up to you as a town. I'm kind of, will go the direction what anybody else wants to do, because he is a friend of mine. So
If they open up and it's horrific mold wise, do you have any idea what the additional cost
no,
might
but
be?
I guarantee that even with these prices, nobody's got it for like extensive amount of mold. Even the higher bid he's going to say, look, this is what I've found. Like, what do you want to do? Because there's no way anybody can cover mold remediation that you're talking about extensive.
So would we be talking another type of company coming in to
Probably
deal
be-
with it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would not be cheap.
But you gotta,
Go ahead.
you gotta remember that we're not gonna chase it through the whole building.
No, we're not.
We're just talking about
Right.
two areas with 4 windows.
Right.
So that's the scope of the work.
Right.
It's
You're
just
not,
that-
like, even if it was to come down the wall in the year, you're not gonna like start ripping apart the whole building, try to.
right, so.
Oh, no, and I wasn't expecting, I
Right,
was just
No, yeah.
for
but it would
safety
be-
issue up there in
Yeah,
that
well,
space.
and again, part of this is the fact that we know, because it's in the police department. And Mr. Goss already knows, like, there has to be a deputy there. Like, nobody can just like
Be there.
have access to the police department without a deputy being present. So,
So we're basically talking about removing all the insulation, looking at it and doing an evaluation, see how bad the wood is. They're gonna replace the wood anyways, the studding
right,
anyways. So that's gonna get ripped out. So that's part of the remediation is removing that.
and these are all reputable companies. They're all gonna do what they need to do. They're calculated that they're going to do what they need to do to make it right.
Now, has the 108 Fix-It Committee looked into what it'll cost us to fix the other end of the world with siding in the ground?
So I think the short answer is no. I think it's part of the upcoming agendas. Honestly, whoever does this just needs to get in there, fix the windows, open it up and see what the heck's going on. Whether or not we had at one time a heaving issue. I will say that Lee went and measured the windows on the far side that are seemingly straight, and they're the same height as the sagging point on the other side that goes like this, exaggerated. And so that's why he thinks, because they're the same height. So he thinks that the end that's higher heaved up. And maybe because of some prior event some year, again, it's an old building, right? You know, so, yeah,
Realistically, with old buildings, even if they have huge sags or whatever, you never get those out of the buildings because it's had years to create that sag. So you don't, even if it has it, I mean, I've gone in cellars, you can jack so much and then you gotta stop. You might come back in a week or two and let some of that memory disappear, but you're never gonna get it completely. You recognize that you have an old building, and you just try to make it so that it's safe and so there's no rotting issues or whatever. So sometimes you have to live with your aesthetics.
so the money from this, just so everybody's on the same page, we have a 108 complex, municipal complex line for a reserve account. That's where these monies will come from. And so there will be, there's sufficient funds in there to do this project. And hopefully based on June 11th, that gets replenished because we got a lot more to do.
Can I, to address what you asked about the vinyl side, we basically determined that this was a big enough issue that we wanted to just this to be the priority. Than to have somebody try to schedule in fixing everything, like all the different vinyl issues, whatever. And to some of the buildings, we want to make sure this is a higher priority where we have, like, I went up there in the fall and you can't even close the window. So think of the heat that we're losing out of this window, let alone more water coming in and different things. This is a very high priority. So we were like, okay, let's get this thing fixed. And then once the dust settles with this, we'll kind of move on to the next knot is like, because vinyl, fixing most vinyl is an aesthetic thing. It's really not a water thing.
So the two people with the most knowledge are bowing out, leaving it to the people who don't know anything to
Well, the
decide on
problem is
which
we know
contract.
everybody. I mean,
I just need to add one little tidbit too. Cliff Enoch was part of doing the siding, this building originally, so they've been working here at this building in the past.
My question would be, if these all three are the same quality people, why wouldn't we go with the cheapest one? Is there a reason? If all three of these guys are good and they're all gonna do a good job, why would we spend more?
I agree with you, but my other question is too, and that's why I asked, the elite build is very, very detailed and it talks about the mold, but some of these, and it's figured in their thing, but some of these other ones don't even mention mold. And so that's what my concern is, at least with elite built. They're going into it and they have figured in some for mold remediation, whereas the other ones, it doesn't appear that they have. So if you do it based on that, we get a wall open up there and it's one of the other ones and they go, OMG.
Right. But
What-
all
where
three
does
of them,
that
it's gonna
leave
be
us?
OMG. No matter how much you're paying to begin with, you're still gonna have to pay more because of that mold, because of that problem.
Well, not necessarily with elite if it's a mild mold issue, because he figures in for a mild mold issue. The other ones don't figure in for a mild mold issue.
I would,
Hmm.
I can't speak for them, but I would be willing to bet that they have put that in there and that is in their price. Because you can't see the project without realizing that there's been water damage in there. And because they're reputable builders, they're going to assume that that's why they're saying replace all the insulation, because that's usually where the mold is going to be. All the sheetrock's going to be replaced. That's where usually the mold is going to be. So they're assuming a complete rebuild of that area. Yeah, they are, all three of them. So
The certified custom carpentry also specifies what type of windows, a type of insulation. They're a little bit more specific in the types of materials that they're going to be using to replace things with. And it does say potential rot could be identified, so.
Rot is different than mold.
Yeah, oh yeah, but
That's gonna get changed out anyways. I mean, it's gonna need a complete reframe. You know, take it out as far as they need to get the siding and the sheathing and the insulation. I mean, you know, they're gonna ice and water shield the outside of it, so they're gonna totally seal it with a proper seal on it, everything. I'm sure all three of you guys are gonna do the same job.
Yeah.
All funny? You wanna go below and take it?
I make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the bid for certified custom carpentry for the repairs of the windows upstairs
Or 15,000.
for approximately 15,000.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand, or your hand. Sorry,
Thank you.
opposed? Yeah, we have one abstention.
All right, I'll reach out in the morning. Wow.
So I'm saying, well, now, you talk to.
Yeah, all right.
14.2 Bar Association Building Gift Agreement.
Okay, so as part of your packet, we have the next chapter in this conversation. And the last time we spoke about this, Fred and I had come to you to say that he and I had been in conversations about the fire association building out back here. And since day one I've been here, MMA Risk has been after me for changing the roof, redoing the roof out there. And so he and I during the winter had a couple of conversations about, well, because right now technically the town leases the association the land that the building sits on. However, we cover most of the expenses. The only thing we really don't cover, there's a little CMP bill each month, which I would fold into our stuff. And so the quid pro quo gentleman's agreement that he and I came up with to present to you, which was essentially that the fire association would gift the building itself to the town with a quid pro quo that they could continue to use it to store fire equipment and stuff for the fire association. And that the fire association would pay for the shingles to redo the roof and we would pay for the labor. We'd have one of the contractor guys go and do that. And then it just is fully a part of the town. The 99-year lease that is currently in play with the association and the town for the land, for the association to have the building here. Assuming you accept this deal, then that lease goes away. The paperwork is all legal schmegally done and the town will officially own the building itself. Again, we already insure it. You know, with MMA, we're going to have to fix the roof anyways. So it just seems like good timing to kind of take care of this. And when I brought this to you guys a few months ago, you gave me permission to send it to the attorney to get it all vetted out with the town's attorney. And that's the document that's in front of you tonight. So if you're comfortable with the equation and the situation itself, I would have you make a motion and vote to enter into this agreement with the fire association for the gifting of the building with all the quid pro quos stated.
I make a motion that we accept the gift of the building from the Mechanic Falls Fire Association as drawn up in the legal document that will be accepted between the two parties.
Been moved,
I'll second it.
moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, what's the town getting out of this? We store our stuff in there.
So.
It is our stuff.
It is our
I
stuff.
thought it was a fire.
That is our.
It's our
stuff.
yeah.
Well, it's the you know, it's kind of like, you know, you or somebody in your family using your garage, right? You know, so the fire association is obviously made up of fire people, right? And they have, the fire association is its own autonomous group, but it's all very interplayed. And again, we're covering most of the costs as it is. And this is a way for us to be able to replace the roof without, in making MMA risk happy and, just getting it done, you know, and, you know,
It's
people,
also good public relations with our fire department.
Yeah.
They have to put your house up.
And they won't be saying, I remember you wouldn't take our association building. I'm kidding. They would never do that. They're professionals. Yeah. Any other discussion? It was moved in second. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand.
thank you.
Lane Road property.
So last month I brought to you the, from Greg Siemens, who also happens to be the town forester, New England Forestry, his, visit out to the 75 acres over on Lane Road. And I gave you that full report last month, through my, town manager updates and saying it would be on this month's agenda for you. I did reach out to Greg, and as a part of your packet is both the, recommendations from that report and a possible fee schedule if we wanted to involve Greg and his company in some of the recommendations. So I just put it into your lap. You can do something tonight. You can do something next month. You can decide not to do anything at all. I've just put it in your lap.
Was the two clubs notified of this?
No. No.
Do we need to vote to have them be notified of this for this report where it recommends getting a hold of them to do some of this stuff?
As far as I am concerned, no. Because to me, the action is at the council level, which is to say, the town has this lot of property. What do you, the town, through the town council, want to do with this property? Now that it's in your lap, if you, the council, want to get more information to make a more informed decision by bringing in the other parties, you can obviously feel free to do that. The question from where I sit is more perfunctory, like, what do you want to do with the property? Because if you said at the table tonight, we want to sell it, right? We want to get rid of it. Then there's no need to do what you're suggesting or asking for. If you say, yes, we want to do the full litany of the recommendations or some variation of these recommendations, which may include, because one of the recommendations is to get together with the clubs, then you can do that. But I don't want to front run this. So it's now in your lap. So you vet it out and tell me what you want to do, if anything.
Well, first off, it was kept for a reason by prior councils. My opinion is we should continue to keep it, if nothing else, because we have this lovely, lovely disaster going on where the Supreme Court said any foreclosed on property, the proceeds need to be given back to somebody until we figure out what's going on with that and how that potentially may affect this property, because that property was acquired through foreclosure. The second thing is it was kept because it is a major connection between parts of the trail that allowed the club to be able to smoothly and efficiently run in town and to get grant money with. If it's removed, then it will, in essence, shut down our trails. Thirdly, we had been approached, the town, not me, I was on planning board when it was initially there. Some of you may remember Lydia that was down at the transfer station, the older lady that made it beautiful. Lydia was a part of the department of the main extension for decades. And she was an animal lover. She was a big part of the 4-H system. And her children, when she passed away from illness, had approached the town about putting in a part of a park somewhere where it would include animals. And prior to the disaster happening with one of the prior town managers, they were in the process of trying to figure that out. And when the stuff happened with that particular town manager, it threw it all to hell in a handbasket and kind of has gotten forgotten on the back burner. And I think all those things need to be considered before you even consider putting it on the market. So the other thing is, if you look at the geographic maps, a lot of rock up there. And the Public Works in the past has asked that we keep it for the potential of getting gravel and sand out of it.
Go ahead, TJ.
I tried to look in the past month's packet, and I was just trying to see, is there a plan with that property, or what's the?
No,
up, or-
I think we just, it was brought up to see if there was any force that could be harvested to
Oh, okay.
benefit the town. I think
Yeah.
is what started this whole, is that not correct? That
Yeah.
started this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So my question was, doing that, could we have you go look at this and tell us if there's any potential values that the town could get out of the wood?
Sure, yeah, I was curious about it too,
Yeah.
because it
Right.
butts up to my property, pretty much it's behind my house, so I was curious to see what the plan was, and I've always
Right.
been wondering, because I, like to do outdoor stuff out there too, and it's a really, it's a big parcel, there's a lot of,
Right.
there's a lot of land out there, so I was just curious to hear
Yeah.
what ideas are thrown around.
Oh, and-
That's pretty much, that's as far as it's gotten there, right? Well, currently, that's what's,
And it was heavily harvested just before
Right.
it got to the town.
right,
So as a part of the report, it's not harvestable for at least a 10-year period, if not longer.
Right.
And so what do we do?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it had been hit pretty hard.
The background of it was, and this could be found in council notes. Tax lien went on it. The gentleman that owned it, the people that owned it, informed the town they were going to have it selectively harvested so they could pay their taxes. They harvested it, and then the town wound up with it in a lien process. So,
Whatever.
yeah.
So we just have to decide if we want to go with the plan, hire them to be part of the plan,
Yeah,
or just sit on it.
yeah,
or-
you could table it, you could take
Table it.
action, you could do whatever you want to do.
That's basically, it's been tabled for several years now.
Yeah, and so I'm just bringing you more
Right,
updated information, and you guys
I'm
can,
just summarizing.
yeah.
And if we want to get the clubs, he recommends that we get the clubs involved to help them deal with some of these problems. And they are able to get grants to help with these problems if we invite them in. So I make a motion, we keep it and that we invite the clubs to join us in this endeavor.
Well, what? Can I ask for clarification on that? What do you mean by endeavor? Are you saying that we're gonna fix the trails with the trail system? Or because that could open up a whole can of worms.
Well, no matter what we do by keeping it, we really need to have the erosion issues addressed. Because that could potentially run into other individuals' properties, and because of where that sits, it could effectively run downhill,
I've
literally.
driven on the trails.
Yeah, literally downhill and affect the potential roadway down below.
That are caused by the trails. and
Yeah.
The people riding on the.
Well,
trails.
it's,
No, that's what it's caused from, because I've ridden the trails.
there are, based on the report, if you read the whole report, it's not necessarily the trails that the clubs have put in, but it's the illegal trails that other individuals have gone in and put in. That's why they are recommending that we contact the warden service to figure out how to get that stopped as well.
As one who's had trail systems on their property before, it's really hard to stop people. Even if you have game cams and different things, it's just really hard. And people, unfortunately, it only takes one or two bad people to ruin it for others. And there were times when all landowners have a choice. You either shut down the trail and ruin it for everybody, or you accept the fact that a couple of bad eggs make it hard for everybody else. And you try not to ruin it for the majority because of what a couple of people do. And I hear you.
Well, and
I'm concerned that if we chase this down too much, you could be talking about, instead of possibly getting some money from harvesting trees, you could be talking about thousands of dollars worth of. I mean, it's not cheap to fix land for erosion.
well, and I understand that, but if we invite the clubs on board, again, I'll go back to the fact that there is grant money out there.
There is.
I know a lot of these individuals and these clubs, they would take very serious about monitoring this property and helping to maintain it.
Is it in their system right now? I mean,
Yes.
Right, so they are already maintaining it.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. It's the problem is there, and they are aware of the same problem because they're riding those trails. Right? I mean, the people that are riding the trails, you can tell when there's erosion. I mean, a lot of times if you're not careful, you're part of the problem.
Well, and that's why I say we really need to invite at least the club chairs here to get their input from them on exactly how they're feeling about this property, what their participation has been or hasn't been, and what they're willing to do before we even go anywhere.
I agree. Nothing to do.
So, need a motion. We have a motion?
Yeah.
You made a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second? Done it?
Second.
I moved and seconded that we invite them for a meeting to be determined, or are you gonna set the time?
The original motion was a little deeper than that.
It
I think the
was.
original motion was to keep the parcel of property
At this point, yep.
and to do that. So, because
Can you
there,
read back the motion for me?
Motion to keep the property and invite the clubs to enter into the discussion.
You okay with that motion?
Yeah.
As she's read it? And you okay with seconding that
Yes.
motion? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
thank you.
It's carried.
So, housekeeping.
Yep,
So I don't know who these people are. So Paula,
I've been getting the emails.
what's that?
I've been getting emails about this.
Yeah. So, if anybody has any information, I don't mind making a phone call, or you guys or Paula, somebody can make a phone call and invite them to the June meeting. But it would be helpful to me if I had that contact info.
You don't get it? You don't get emails?
In at least the.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a number for him, but you may. Okay. All right. Well, we'll do what we can. So if I need to, I'll reach out to people. Okay.
public land. Follow Maine state laws,
Come in and get a
permission.
permission from.
That would be the wise thing to do. But technically, if it's not posted. All state laws. So what is your suggestion on 14.4? Sorry,
So 14.4 is, I got something recently from MMA,
right,
nominations to MMA's 2024 to 2026 Legislative Policy Committee.
right.
And so this is an official committee. They're just looking for nominations. If any of you want to be a part of this, we'll go through the motion and nominate whomever.
Come on, Cindy. You're getting off this committee. You sure you don't want to be part of another committee?
No.
Tried. I just tried. I don't know,
So
whatever.
we don't have to have any nominations. They're just putting it out there for
Yeah.
all of the
Anybody
member
want to be
towns.
foolish enough to be on this committee?
So we can just pass over it and call it a
Guess we'll
day.
Pass over it. and Call it a
Alright.
day.
All right, pass over.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor rise. No,
Thank
get out of
you.
here.